Hi, I'm Jane from Night Owl Speaks, and today we're going to start looking at the subject of rejection. Rejection is described as the act or process of rejecting something or someone. Why do we fear rejection so much? And does this fear influence our behaviour in our relationships? And could our fear of rejection be a survival instinct? And why does rejection hurt us so much? John Bowlby, the famous British psychiatrist and psychoanalyst, was the father of attachment theory, the principles of which are still relevant today. Infants form emotional attachments to familiar caregivers, and the crucial age is between 6 months and 3 years. Behaviourally, emotional attachment is displayed by seeking proximity to familiar people, especially during times of distress. A young infant uses familiar people as a secure base from which to explore the world around them. How these adult attachment figures or familiar people respond to a child's needs is essential for their emotional and personality development, and how they may respond socially in the future. A disruption to the development of healthy attachments could come in the form of familiar caregivers who are insensitive, inconsistent, and/or unresponsive to a young child's needs. Also, abrupt separation from familiar caregivers can be traumatic and disrupt the attachment process. During the 1970s, the psychologist Mary Ainsworth devised an experiment that enabled her to observe the behaviour of infants when placed in a stressful situation that usually involved the mother as the primary caregiver and a stranger. Various scenarios were enacted, one of them being the mother briefly departing from and subsequently returning to the room housing the infant and a stranger. The experimental observer was looking at the child's capacity to be comforted by the mother on her return to the room. For more information, the experiments were called The Strange Situation, and you might like to read more about them. As a result of her work, Mary Ainsworth was able to categorise a variety of attachment styles ranging from secure to insecure. Secure children are securely attached because the caregiver is available and meets the child's needs in an appropriate and responsive manner. These children, whilst distressed when the mother left the room, were able to be quickly comforted on reunion. Insecure children were divided into 2 groups, the first one being anxious avoidant or dismissing. She noted that even infants will avoid the negative emotional state that accompanies rejection. Young children who had caregivers that were insensitive and rejecting of their needs not only showed no outward sign of distress when the mother left the room, but would also turn away, fail to greet, fail to look at, and even turn and crawl away from their mothers when reunited with them after separation. There was no apparent preference for the mother over a stranger in that particular experimental situation. The second insecure attachment style is known as anxious ambivalent. These children sought comfort from their mothers when reunited with them, but could show resentful behaviours on that reunion. They sometimes resisted and rejected the comfort on offer, and often pushed the mother away. Alternatively, a passive response was also observed. Ambivalent children tended to explore less and would often hover in the vicinity of the mother. Could this be considered a kind of survival strategy? Close, but not too close then, for these very anxious young children. Disorganized attachment was a third category that was added later. This is a kind of exaggeration of the first 2 insecure attachment types. The child can seem fearful and disorientated because they are in a dilemma. The very person that they seek comfort from could be their abuser, and so they will naturally be apprehensive. They may even prefer to be comforted by a stranger. the children may show signs of dissociation, such as freezing when distressed. They may pull their hair or have a dazed expression on their faces. It stands to reason that the optimum environment in which a human being can thrive is one of being loved and accepted and to belong. This should occur from birth, and those early experiences of how well we were loved and nurtured, as opposed to rejected in whatever form, as previously mentioned, will likely impact on our subsequent relationships. Rejection can be a recurring theme for some people throughout childhood. It may be based on a lived experience or the perception that one has been rejected. It can occur in a variety of circumstances, and not just in the more obvious ones such as emotional, physical, and sexual abuse. Divorce, for example, can shatter the self-esteem of children, even in the most seemingly civilized of circumstances. For vulnerable children, the splitting of the family unit can make them feel unsafe and stressed. And if a new partner is introduced before a situation is processed by the child, then this can exacerbate the problem. If a parent's attention is diverted away from an already anxious child to a new love object, so to speak, this could be interpreted as rejection. Also, insensitive parents that are not tuned in to the emotional needs of their children can create an anxious attachment style, even if physical needs are well met. The parents may have a dismissive and rejecting style if their love is conditional. Research has linked maternal postnatal depression to mothers who have an insecure attachment style themselves. A depressed mother is arguably more likely to be rejecting of her infant's needs than a non-depressed mother. This could set up a lifetime narrative in the child that makes them believe that they are intrinsically unlovable. So that's it for today. Please tune in to episode 2 when I will explain why rejection is so painful and give you some tips on how to recover if you have been rejected by a person in your life. I'm Jane from Night Owl Speaks. Thanks for joining me.